Hey everyone, and welcome. Think of me as your Project Navigator for the next little while. We're about to set a course to demystify some of the biggest ideas in project management today: Agile, sprints, and user stories. But don't worry, we're not going to get bogged down in dense textbooks. Instead, we're going to use some simple, powerful analogies to build a mental map that you can use on any project. So let's get into it.
So here's the game plan for our journey today. First, we'll talk about the Uncharted Voyage to understand the problem we're even trying to solve. Then, we'll cook up some recipes for conversation. After that, we'll figure out how to size our work by packing for the journey, and then we'll map out the big picture with a road trip. We'll see how it all gets done in the dinner service, and finally, we'll wrap it all up with our traveler's log. Sound good? Let's go. Okay, so picture this. You're hired to build a giant, magnificent ship. Sounds great, right? The only catch is the destination is a total mystery. And the customer? Well, they'll only figure out what kind of ship they really want once they start seeing it take shape. This, right here, is the reality for most modern projects, especially in software. If you create a super detailed, rigid blueprint on day one, it's pretty much guaranteed to be wrong. So, how do you navigate these uncharted waters?
This quote, this single sentence, is the reason Agile was even invented. It's the phrase that keeps project managers up at night. And what it reveals is that the biggest problems we face aren't technical problems, they're communication problems. It's about that huge, frustrating gap between what someone asks for and what they actually truly need. Our job, as project navigators, is to close that gap.
So, how do we close that gap? Well, we have to totally rethink how we plan. The traditional way is like that rigid blueprint. You create it all up front, and from that moment on, you fight against any change, because change is seen as a failure of the plan. But the Agile approach, it doesn't just tolerate change, it expects it, it embraces it. Now, this doesn't mean you don't have a plan. Of course you do. It just means planning is a continuous activity. You make decisions as you go, you learn, and you use change to make the final product even better.
To fix that big communication problem, we need a better tool. If a 100-page requirements document is like a legal contract, we need something more like a simple recipe card, something that starts a conversation instead of ending one. And that's exactly what this section is all about.
And that tool is the user story. It's just a simple, powerful sentence that frames everything we build from the perspective of the person who's actually going to use it. It forces us to answer three super important questions. Who wants this? What do they want to do? And this is the most important part, why do they want to do it? See, this little format isn't the final word on the feature, it's the promise of a conversation to come.
A really good user story has three parts, the three C's. First, you have the card. That's literally just the written down story, the placeholder. But second, and this is where the magic happens, is the conversation. It's the back and forth between the developers and the business folks to hash out all the details. And finally, you have the confirmation. These are the acceptance criteria, a simple checklist that lets us all agree on what done actually looks like.
So, how can you tell if you've written a good story? Well, you can use the INVEST checklist. Is it independent? Can you make the soup without having to bake the cake at the same time? Is it negotiable? It's a starting point, not a signed-in-blood contract. Is it valuable? Is this a dish someone actually wants to order? Is it estimable and small? Is it a single appetizer, not a whole 7-course meal? And finally, is it testable? Is there a clear way to know when it's cooked just right?
Okay, so we have our recipes. We know what we need to build. The next big question is, how much effort is each one going to take? To figure that out, we're going to switch our analogy from the kitchen to packing for a big trip. And this leads us to a really fundamental shift away from traditional project management. In a complex project, trying to estimate every little task in exact hours or days, well, it's just a losing game. It gives you this false sense of certainty and completely ignores all the things you don't know yet. There has to be a better way, right? And the answer is story points. Here's the big idea. Instead of asking, how long will this take, we ask a much better question. How big is this? Story points are a relative measure. They wrap up complexity, the sheer amount of work, and any unknowns into a single number. Just think about packing a suitcase. You don't know if it'll take you 30 seconds or 2 minutes to pack a t-shirt, but you just know it's way smaller and easier than packing a huge winter coat. That's what story points do.
This makes it super clear. Let's say a t-shirt is our baseline. It's easy, it's small, we'll call it a 1. Okay? What about a pair of jeans? Well, that's a bit more work, takes up more space, so maybe that's a 3. And a big, bulky winter coat? Oh, that's way more effort, let's call that an 8. See what we're doing? We're not talking about time at all. We're just comparing things to each other. This is the heart of relative estimation, and it's a total game changer.
So, how does a whole team agree on these numbers? Well, often they play a quick game called planning poker. It's really simple. The team talks about a story, and then everyone privately picks a card with their estimate on it. Then, 1, 2, 3, everyone shows their card at the same time. If the numbers are all different, the people with the highest and lowest numbers explain their thinking. It's an amazing way to uncover hidden assumptions and get everyone on the same page fast.
All right, team. We've defined our work with stories, and we've sized it with points. Now it's time to zoom out and create our high-level plan. So we're going to switch analogies again, this time to planning a big cross-country road trip.
The first stop on our road trip is the minimum viable product, or MVP. In our analogy, the MVP isn't the fancy car with the sunroof and the killer sound system. No, it's the first drivable version. It's got an engine, wheels, a steering wheel, just enough to get you from point A to point B safely. The whole point is to complete that first leg of the journey and get real feedback from your passengers to help you plan the rest of the trip.
To figure out what goes into that first drivable car, we have to prioritize. A really handy tool for this is the Moscow method. You break features down into what you must have, like the engine and wheels, what you should have, like headlights, what you could have, like that sound system, and what you won't have, at least not this time, like the sunroof. It gives everyone crystal clear priorities.
Okay, so the big question, how long is the whole road trip going to take? To get a rough idea, we need to know our team's velocity. You can think of velocity as the average miles per day, or in our world, story points per sprint that our team can comfortably handle. Once we know our average velocity over a few sprints, we can use this simple formula to forecast about how many sprints it might take to finish the whole trip. It's a guide, not a promise set in stone.
So we've got our high-level map. Now it's time to zoom right in on how we execute a single leg of the journey. For this, let's go back to our kitchen analogy and see how a team works inside one of those fixed-length cycles we call a sprint.
The sprint has a really steady, predictable rhythm. It all starts with sprint planning, which is where the team gets together to choose the menu for the next couple of weeks. Then you have the sprint itself. That's the time for heads-down cooking, with a quick daily check-in to make sure everything's on track. At the end, you have the sprint review, where you serve the dishes to your customers and get their feedback. And finally, the sprint retrospective, where the chefs talk about how the service went and how to make the next one even smoother.
Now, of all those meetings, I'm going to tell you that the retrospective is, without a doubt, the most important one. This is where the real improvement happens. It's the one time the team steps back and doesn't talk about what they built, but how they built it. What went well? What was a pain? What should we try differently next time? This meeting is the engine that turns a good team into a truly great one over time.
Wow, we have covered a ton of ground on this journey together. So before we part ways, let's open up our traveler's log and just quickly review the most important principles you can take with you on your own projects.
So, what are the big takeaways? First, embrace uncertainty. Remember, your plan is just a guide, it's not a contract. Second, communication is everything. User stories are there to start conversations. Third, deliver value in small, steady chunks. Those sprints are your engine of progress. Fourth, trust your team. Let the people doing the work own and improve their own process. And finally, never forget that planning isn't something you do once. It's something you do continuously.
You know, when you strip it all away, Agile isn't really a set of rules or a rigid process. It's a mindset. It's a philosophy for how to navigate the messy, unpredictable, and exciting world of creating something new. It's your compass for uncertainty. The only question left is, where is your journey going to take you?